Hey guys, thanks for joining me for another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video. Today we are going to do an updated character guide on Shantotto. So this is going to be Shantotto adding her force weapon. So my previous character guide was just Shantotto with the BT. So I think she's definitely due for an update. She's going to be looking a lot better here with her FR and with her new upgrades, right? So in this video, we're going to look at her calls, her artifacts, and her spheres. If you're unfamiliar with Shantotto, she's basically a damage dealer that has a good amount of debuffs, can paralyze, can do multiple attacks in the same turn for some pretty good damage. So yeah, and then she's an Omni Imperialer, right? So she imperils for every element. So we're going to see how she's looking in this video today. My Shantotto is fully built. I've got FR, everything with the BT. The only kink is I decided not to pull the trigger and green the BT just because of where my resources are at. I'm kind of in this mode, and maybe some of you guys are getting to this as well, where I've gotten to the point where I've got like a bunch of extra BT books, but I have no BTs to actually plus and use them on. So it's unfortunate because I should have enough materials to green like 2 characters right now, but 3 of those are sitting in books that I can't use on any BTs, and I don't want to book extra BTs that I get because then I can't sell them, and I'd rather have the burst token. So I think DFFOO needs to make it so that we can sell BTs that have books on them. That would be really useful, but who knows? We'll see if that ever happens. But I'm diverging, so let's get back to the character guide here, right? So let's go ahead first and let's look at the calls here for Shantotto. Shantotto's call is actually solid. The reason why is because Salvation Scythe does put a Paralyze on. Now, the bad part about it is Shantotto in her kit gets this as a 2-turn Paralyze, but the call version is only 1 turn. So, really, you just have to time when you would want to use this, and hopefully 1 time is enough for the fight, right? The other thing Shantotto gets when she's called in on either call is she does put an Accursed Gaze debuff on the enemies, which is going to be a defense down and a sap. And then the other thing is that Accursed Gaze debuff just makes the actual attacks of Shantotto better. So the call attacks will be better because they'll have Accursed Gaze. And then the first one, Rage Bio, it just also adds like a generic poison onto it. So it's not the craziest, but I have seen fights where it's like, yeah, I really just want that 1-turn Paralyze. You definitely can use Shantotto to get that. But otherwise, I really wouldn't worry about the calls too much, right? All right, so with that, let's look at Shantotto herself here. So artifacts, there's actually 2 ways you could go with the artifacts. As a damage dealer, you could go attack 108, max brave 330, or you could go attack 108 and debuff attack up. I think either of those are solid ones to do. It just depends. If you want to go all in on attack, then do attack 108 and debuff attack up. Otherwise, if you want some more max brave, add that. Or you could do a mix. So like right here, I'm going with 2 debuff attack ups and 1 max brave 330, right? All right, and then the spheres. So Shantotto deals weakness damage and magic damage. So you're looking at either attack, brave damage up, or magic attack, and you can do weakness damage triggers. So I did go into that. So I went with Rydia, which is a weakness damage, and that's going to give me attack and brave damage. And then I did 7, which is one of the better brave damage spheres, and that's also a weakness damage trigger. You could also do something like Aerith. Aerith is like a really good magic attack up you could throw on there. And then on the E slot, once again, you want to go attack. Like Shantotto is a damage dealer, so really prioritize that. So like Yuffie or Emperor is probably the best here. I went with Emperor. I think Seymour would work as well. But I just went Emperor because I had an extra one on there. So attack up when you debuff, which Shantotto is a debuffer, right? All right, so with that, let's hop into the showcase. So my Shantotto does have an Ultima weapon on. The only thing is we're not going to see like the good version of the BT effect up, but we will still do it, right? So let's hop in. And what I'm going to do with Shantotto is I think I'm just going to go burst phase right away, just so we can see all the skills, go through the kit, and then we'll get the BT effect up. Because mine is not green, I can't just pop like the BT effect, right? So I think that's what we'll do. We're just going to open with that, get the BT effect up, the not as good version, because mine is just it's a BT plus, but it has 0 to 3 ingots in it. Okay. So Shantotto's opening up right away. Now, a couple things that you need to... There's 2 things you got to pay attention to with Shantotto. One is the overhead, which is the rage. You want to keep the rage up as much as possible. And then the other thing is the enemies. You want to make sure they keep this Accursed Gaze debuff on. So I'm going to go through how to upkeep those, okay? So with the overhead, the 2 ways to upkeep it are to press the LD, and the LD is going to upgrade it to 10 turns. And then the other way is if Shantotto's health ever falls below 50%, the overhead will stay permanent, okay? So let's go ahead and let's just hop into the burst phase right away. And then that way we can just freely show off the whole kit, right? Now with Shantotto, I would open with the EX. She starts with it, so I would just open with it because it's going to do a couple of important things. So we're going to pop that and see the damage here. Now this is without other BT effects up. So about 1 mil with 750k, pretty standard damage, right? Like I wouldn't say it's anything out of this world, but it's solid, right? So on the EX, it does extend all of her buffs by 2 turns, which is good. And then it triggers twice if the enemies have a Cursed Gaze. So the reason why a Cursed Gaze is so important is that the EX and the 15 and the 35, they all do double attacks if the enemies have a Cursed Gaze. So that's why it's important to keep that on there, right? Now, the EX is going to put a buff on called Matchless Magic, which is going to be an attack and HP damage up, Max Brave and Overflow Stolen up. And then the other big thing is it puts Divine Malison down, which is the Omni Imperil debuff, and then it also refreshes the Accursed Gaze to 3 turns. So the EX is one way that you can refresh Accursed Gaze, okay? Next, let's go ahead and pop Rage Arrow. The way I would think of the arrow in the bio, think of the arrow as more single target, and the bio is a little bit more splash to it. So let's do the arrow. This is pretty strong for single target, I think. So you see it triggers twice because of the Accursed Gaze and almost 2 million. If we have full BT effects up, it does do over 2 million damage. So that's pretty solid damage for a 15 attack, right? So Rage Arrow is obviously a wind-based attack. Triggers twice because we have a Cursed Gaze on. Also refreshes the Matchless Magic buff, which we got from the EX. And it also refreshes a Cursed Gaze to 3 turns. So basically does the same buffs and debuffs as the EX. It's just the EX has the Omni Imperil with it, right? Then let's do Rage Bio. Okay. And then that one there, you know, not as much damage single target, but does more damage AoE, right? So about a mil with about 400k to the other enemy. This extends all of the buffs by 2 turns, triggers twice because of a Cursed Gaze, gives herself an attack up, and then it does put a poison down on the enemy, and then also refreshes the Accursed Gaze. So the Accursed Gaze is really easy to upkeep. Because it's on 3 of the buttons you're pressing. It's the EX, the 15, and the 35. So as long as you're pressing those buttons semi-regularly, you should be upkeeping that no matter what, and you should be good to go, right? Okay, and then also the Rage overhead, it gives her the Rage versions of the 15 and 35. So you always want the Rage versions up. So now let's go ahead and pop the LD, which is Salvation Scythe. So this is going to increase the overhead to 10 turns. So if you need to refresh it, that's the button you're going to press. And it's about a mil AoE we got there. But it does do a really important debuff, right? And this is a dark damage attack, as was the Rage Bio. And then the EX was a holy attack. So those are the 3 elements that Shantotto is carrying, right? Now, the LD is going to recover a skill use of skill 1. It does upkeep the Rage buff, the overhead to 10 turns. So you see we have that 10 turns now. And then it's going to put a debuff called Ruin's Curse on the enemies for 2 turns. It's basically a Paralyze. So the enemies will not be able to act with the Ruin's Curse on. What's really nice about Ruin's Curse too is the debuff is not called Paralyze. So there are enemies that negate Paralyze, but they won't actually negate a Cursed Gaze, which is kind of nice, right? That and then like... what's her face? Agrius is Confused. Those are the 2 types of like Paralyze that sometimes enemies that negate Paralyze you can sneak through. So the Paralyze I think is a really good thing of Shantotto's kit. And the thing is she's got in her base kit, she's got 4 LD uses. Plus if you use Burst Phase, that's 5. So that there is like 10 turns of Paralyze. So that's pretty good. Because in a fight, like especially if you're not giving the enemies a lot of turns, you can almost go an entire fight where they're fully paralyzed depending on how aggressive they are. All right, let's do the FR attack here. We'll go through the FR conditions when I actually use it later on and we start force time. But we'll just use it here to see the damage. We're partnering up with Ultimecia. So what we'll do next is we'll kind of ramp up to a force time and we'll get other BT effects up so that we can see what the damage looks like with BT effects up. But let's do Shantotto's BT. Once again, this isn't going to do nearly as much damage because it's not greened. But we'll just watch the animation there. Oh yeah, that was like not nearly as good, but it did okay damage. So Shantotto's BT, let's talk about that. So I'm going to talk about it as if it were green. So it does do a big time dark damaging attack. And then the burst effect is going to be brave damage limit up, but it goes up an extra 30% if it's elemental weakness. So it's going to have like a big chunk to it, right? So it's going to be a 50% brave damage limit up, but it's going to be 80% of its elemental weakness. So that's a really big number, right? Overflow stolen up, and then HP damage limit up 30%, but Shantotto gets 80%. So Shantotto's BT is really huge for making her damage look good, which we're not going to see in this video because I don't have it green. But just imagine Shantotto with an 80% HP damage limit up. Very, very good. Elemental damage weakness up 100%. And then the one thing is this will dark enchant the entire party, but only if it's green. So, or a minimum of 2 out of 3, I would say. But you don't want to go like part way when you're investing in BTs. It's all or nothing, right? So this is the one bad part about Shantotto, is the only way that she enchants is through like basically a max out BT, which is unfortunate. I feel like she should just get that in the kit, because the dark enchant is actually pretty important for like the Shinryu fight, and she doesn't have it unless it's green, right? So it's not the craziest BT effect, right? Like you get some nice stats with it and then a dark enchant, but there are way better BT effects out there. All right, so let's do Aerith. Let's do a little bit of ramping here. And actually, while we have it, let's just pop Selfie in, and we'll just wall out. I won't even worry about putting launch on these guys. I'm not like trying to do like a victory or anything like that. We just want to show off Shantotto with some BT effects up, and we want to get Shantotto's FR up pretty quick. So yeah, we'll just wall out here. Nice to see those selfies on the friend list, right? I want to see selfies. I want to see irises. Iris is so good on the friend list, by the way. And it's not even for, like, if you have your own iris. Like, there's a lot of players maybe that didn't pull iris. Iris is a great friend just in any instance, because if I'm, say, doing a run with Tifa, the moment, like, force time ends, that first turn after force, you can bring in the friend Iris, pop the EX, and essentially get a free turn of force time, because she's going to copy whatever that force damage was. So I think the friend Iris, just that alone, is very, very valuable. Alright, so let's go ahead and heal up again. And then we'll kind of pass turn, because I do want to see a couple of normal attacks here with Shantotto before we go FR. Let's go ahead and pop the Holy. So now we got the BT effect up. And then we're going to get Garnet's BT effect up as well. And then see what Shantotto's looking like. The damage should improve quite a bit with 3 BT effects up. Alright. And then Garnet will Aquamarine. And then we'll go BT effect. Actually, we'll do the AA too. All this off turn, dude. It's crazy. This actually isn't a bad setup, having Garnet and Aerith, because you're still getting double off turn. And they're both like insane supports. Pretty crazy damage here. Alright, and let's go ahead and BT. Alright, triple BT effect. Now let's just kind of look at like a couple of normal attacks with Shantotto and see what the damage is. So I think I might start with, we might start with an arrow attack. And just see what the wind attack does here. And actually, yeah, this fight is so old. We're burning through them pretty quick here anyways. So sure, let's go ahead. Actually, you know what I want to do? Yeah, they've already got the Salvation Scythe debuff on. I guess the EX is up. Let's see what the EX does here with triple BT effects up. Should be a lot better damage. Alright, so 1.5 mil with 1 mil splash. So that was a lot better than what we saw originally. And then Garnet will just Aquamarine a pass turn. It's fine. Aerith is going to actually do Healing Wind to get her overhead maxed out. Because why not do an insane amount of off-turn damage, right? Why not? look at all this off-turn from Aerith and Garnet. It's crazy. Healing Wind. Alright, so that's maxed out. Perfect. Now we can pass turn. We'll do a Seal Evil. Really make sure we're safe from everything here. But we'll see the enemies here will not be able to act. So we're going to be very, very safe here. Garnet, we can just Aquamarine again. Alright, and then we better get into this Shantotto force time. I think is what we should do. Okay. Yep, paralyzed out. All right, now the force is blued, so the force is maxed out. So let's go ahead and hit that button. All right, and then we'll talk about what the force actually does here. So this is going to be a dark AoE attack. The damage here should look pretty good. Let's see what the damage looks like under triple BTFX. Should be better than what we saw earlier. All right, about 2 mil AoE. So that's pretty standard for like an FR attack. 2 mil seems about on par. So this is going to put the Ruins Curse down on the enemies. So this now, with the LD, there's 2 ways to apply the Paralyze. So this is also applying the Paralyze. Okay. And then the HP damage conditions are this. If you attack a stunned enemy, so basically an enemy with the Ruins Curse, it's 30%. So that's going to be free for everybody. And then if you attack with any element on your turn, it's 30%. And then 50% if Shantotto does it. So Shantotto should get 80. Other characters will get 60. Now, Aerith is non-elemental, but Garnet is enchanting, I believe. So everybody should be getting 60% here. So you want to make sure, because if you don't have the BT with Shantotto, you want to have other elemental characters or another enchanter if you're going to use Shantotto's FR. I do think Shantotto's FR is going to be better to echo with than to use as the main FR. But it depends on what your team looks like. So we'll go ahead, we'll double echo with Aerith here, just to get some gauge up really fast and see how bad we can annihilate these enemies. All right, 83%. So once again, Shantotto's condition requires us to attack, which we're not doing. So we're just getting the base 80%, but still worth it. Still totally worth it. All right, and then when Aerith attacks, assuming that Garnet has us enchanted, which she should, because Aquamarine, I believe, water enchants us. Okay, good off-turn damage. Yes, please. We'll take all that. All right, let's go ahead and let's try the Fury Brand here. And then this should get us 60% in theory, because Garnet should be enchanting us here. Let's see. Yep, 63%. Exactly. Garnet should also be doing 60%. So let's say we Aquamarine. That's an elemental damage. And we're attacking a stunned enemy, so 60% should be pretty easy here. Yep, 68. And then Shantotto should get 80. So it's a pretty straightforward FR. I mean, I could echo. Let's go ahead and, sure, let's do Salvation Scythe. Really keep them paralyzed, even though they already have the 2 turn on. Well, let's get some big damage. So about 6 mil AoE. Watch the enemies be paralyzed. Yep, and paralyzed. And it's any type of stun, so I would assume you could even bring in another paralyzed character and it would still work, right? Sure, we'll seal evil for big damage. Now, the enemies are going to get a turn before Shantotto, so I'd have to reapply the Paralyze here. So, I mean, we could just echo and that would reapply it. That's maybe what we'll do. Actually, no, we're going to break them. We are going to break them. Let's do the LD. Or no, let's echo. Yeah, let's go crazy. Sure, well, let's go crazy here. Do some echoing. Just getting a look at the damage here. It's funny because this is my my showcase fight that you guys see me do a lot. This was actually the last mission quest was this fight. So we blew that up pretty good because I'm pretty used to doing this fight. We blew that one up pretty good. Sure, let's end it with an echo here. This will probably, well, maybe we'll kill the left enemy. We'll see. It should kill the right enemy. All right, what's the FR do at 600% for Shantotto? Oh, yeah, pretty much nuked out, and then we're out of here. So anyways, guys, there you go. That's Shantotto. Shantotto isn't anything crazy, right? Like, the damage isn't like Unga Bunga crazy damage like some of these other damage dealers. I would say if you're getting Shantotto, it's because she's either a favorite or you really like that utility of, like, the Paralyze. I think that's probably her best asset, to be honest, is that she has a very on-demand 2-turn Paralyze AoE. Not an easy thing to get other than, like, Fusuya, right? So anyways, let me know what you think of Shantotto. Thanks for watching. We'll catch y'all on the next one.